Hey guys, so today's video is going to be really different. It's very personal and detailed. It might be quite messy because it's kind of hard not to give details because then it just would be slightly like missing out on some points. So it might be jumping all over the place. I'll try not to. I wasn't gonna make this video because I didn't think people cared or were interested, but the fact that I got several people to tell me to make this video, I was like, all right, might as well. So yeah, I will tell you how I finally decided to pursue K-pop and actually move to Korea and do everything. So I'm starting from the very beginning, which was when I first listened to K-pop. And that was with G by SNSD, and I was in 8th grade, so middle school. And back then, it was like my first time, so I didn't really care too much. I just was introduced to K-pop. And a few of my friends, dance friends actually, they were listening to like Super Junior and Big Bang, and they started, being really hyped about them. But I then just listened to it just because they were listening to it, but not really into it yet until 2010 with O by SNSD. And that's when I started actually trying to memorize the member's name and actually started looking at other groups and listening to all their songs. So that's when I really started getting into K-pop. And then when I turned around 15, 16 in high school, I was watching a lot of performance videos and I was like, oh, I kind of want to be on stage too. I want to be a K-pop idol. Now, background about myself up to that point. I was taking piano lessons all the way up to that point and also dance lessons all the way up to that point. Now for dance though, I was doing ballet and Chinese folk dance, so not really K-pop, hip-hop, that type of stuff. But when I was younger, it was forced upon by my parents. I was not allowed to quit. Even my dance teacher said, don't dance, because I sucked. But anyways, it hit high school and then I genuinely started liking both of the things I was doing. In addition to that, my dance team started going out to more competitions. We even went on a show once. It's called America's Got Talent. You could search it up. Maybe probably can't recognize me. It's too many people. But anyways, we won a lot of competitions and started performing more. Yes, winning feels great, but it's not like I wanted to win. But that feeling of being on stage, people giving us standing ovation, yelling encore, and like clapping so much, oh my God, that gave me shivers. And up to that day, I still can't forget it. That's like the turning point, in addition to liking K-pop. And it was a very specific one, because like we won other ones, which didn't give me the same feeling, but it was just that one competition. And then I was like, maybe I should try to audition. So back then there were no auditions in Georgia. It was mainly New York and California, mainly LA actually. And it was only by the big 3 companies at that time. So YG, SM, JYP. It was like maybe once a year, but not really. So back then it was very inconsistent. Online auditions were practically non-existent. Small ones were like, maybe up and coming, not even alive yet. Like it was really back then, I'm part of a different generation. But yeah, that happened. And I was like, if I want to audition, I need to somehow go to either New York or California. So when I was like 16, I think, got a summer camp to Stanford to do some music there. Then went to LA to travel, but really to audition. And I went to audition. I forgot which one it was for the global audition, but I auditioned and, clearly didn't do well. It was, another story. After the audition, I went back to high school and then, time passed. Had to start choosing colleges. Now it was either between staying in state in Georgia, going to New York, or going to California. So it was like NYU, UCLA, USC, or in-state. And in-state, I could just practice, but I can't really audition. But going to NYU and UCLA/USC, I could do the global auditions that happen, right? But the thing is, I felt really guilty because at that time, even though my parents and I had a deal, more like my parents told me, that any type of education related thing, they will pay for because they just kind of want me to freely pursue education related things and get degrees. So that was our family's deal ever since I was young. They just always said it. Any education related thing we will pay for. So they said that, but I felt guilty because the difference between going to an in-state college and going to the out-state ones were so big that I felt so guilty. Went to NYU, even though they gave me half off. I hated it. New York, sorry, not my vibe. Okay, then I went to a USC, UCLA area, and I liked it a lot more. Ended up getting to UCLA, but I felt really guilty because they're a public school. No scholarship then, really, because they want the out-of-state students. So because of that, I felt really guilty, and I wanted to tell my parents about my dream and my goal of going there. I wanted to tell them kind of like, oh, I want to be a K-pop idol and I want to audition, but obviously I'll still I'm still going to get my degree while I audition. So it's not going to be like, oh, I'm just going there and bye. But I wanted to tell them that if I do pass audition somehow and actually end up going to Korea, I will pause or stop my education because I prioritize that more. But I just felt so guilty. I had to tell them, right? I told my mom first because my mom was the more supportive figure, nicer figure. My dad was the education person. So I decided to tell my mom, and it was very interesting because up to that point, she was always like, oh, whatever you want to do, you could do it. Anything, we will support. Everything, we will support. It was kind of like that vibe that when I told her about me wanting to go into K-pop, even though I know Asian parents are not really supportive of that stuff normally, I was just very shocked it was coming from her just because of me growing up and me even up to that point, her still telling me that I can do anything and she'll support it. And the fact that she looked at me, she was like, are you crazy? Like, you'll never become that. You suck at dancing. Like, we put you through so many like dance lessons and music stuff and you really want to keep on going and pursue. Like, you really think that was your path just because we yeah, okay. Anyways, broke down crying. It's not fun. Pretty much because of that day, I kind of don't tell her everything anymore, even though she kind of knows. Yeah, it was very hurtful. After that, I decided to also tell my dad because my dad's the one who mainly pays for this stuff. And I told him, and surprisingly, he was more supportive because he was like, oh, okay, like if you do well, technically entertainers would make even more money than more regular people do. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, in my mind, I was like, well, if I make it. But he was like, yeah, but even if you become entertainer in Korea, you would still have to somehow eventually finish your education. So he had no problem, which was very surprising because the one who made me study all the time was my dad, like study, like tears coming down my eyes, me trying to memorize the freaking dictionary for no reason. So it's very surprising that the more supportive one would say that, and the one who was like stricter my entire life would actually be more supportive. So it was complete opposite reactions. I was bracing myself for my dad, but not for my mom, and it was very, yeah. Anyways, I chose UCLA at the end, and during the first couple months, there was a global audition. I don't remember which company, but did that one. And by then, I was kind of like, oh, I'm too old. Like, maybe I'll go another route. Like, maybe I can do acting, like Disney people, like acting first and singing, and they do well, right? So I could do that. Don't know why I think in circles and go like this. Don't know. And I thought at the time acting would be a little easier. Not easy at all. I don't know what I was thinking. But it was also LA, so it was kind of like acting more like prominent. Anyways, went to so many acting lessons and auditions and all that stuff. And the more I took lessons and tried, I was kind of like, at least acting, you could be any age, but K-pop, you only could be a certain age. So I started like giving up more on K-pop. Yeah, to the point where I almost pretty much forgot why I started acting. I forgot that I ever wanted to be a K-pop idol. I joined choreos, which is a well-known K-pop dance team in that area. Out of my love for K-pop, but not to the point where I was like, oh, I wanted to be a K-pop idol. Like, I kind of hid it and forgot it most of the time. And it was very interesting. I still don't know how I buried it, because I still loved K-pop, listened to it all the time, did K-pop covers, but I completely would forget that I wanted to do that in the first place. And I was just trying to do more acting and all that stuff. Now, during my time at UCLA, I think there was one more global audition that I took, and I think that's the one I recorded on my channel, but it's not like I wanted to do it to like completely pass. I think I just want to do it just for the fun of it. But anyways, times fly by, and now I'm almost graduating. I'm in my last quarter. I was taking a theater class, and I only took that theater class because I read that it was like fun. Like, I wasn't a theater major or anything, but I just needed those units to graduate. So I just needed anything. And during that class, they made everyone stand in a circle. They turned off all the lights and put on like a stage type of spotlight in the middle. And they told us to close our eyes, and they're like, okay, imagine that you are on stage performing in front of people, and they're like, look out to the audience and everything, and imagine you performing. I didn't imagine myself acting in front of everybody. I immediately imagined myself dancing, singing, like performing in front of people like that. And I realized I tried to forget it because I didn't want to be sad that I gave up on my dream, and I didn't want to be sad that I, couldn't do it. And so I like pretty much buried that part of my life. And it was very interesting because up to that point, like, I was still doing K-pop. I just didn't know why I was, that into K-pop. I was still doing acting, completely forgot why I even started acting. During class, literally, started bawling, like crying. Like, my cries though, they're silent, okay? They're silent, but my tears are going down though. So, I mean, thank God it was like at the end of class. When the lights turned back on, I was like trying to like hide it. I was like this, and I was sniffling, and I was like trying to hide it. And I immediately go into the bathroom and start crying because I realized that my entire life, and even still now, like, I wanted to, become an idol, like, or become a singer and performer and all that stuff. Up to that point, even when I went to K-Con for the first time, and even to some other like shows, I didn't really realize why. I kind of got not depressed. I just felt down after watching them on stage. And then after realizing, it took me a while. It's not right away. Oh, like, realized everything after I cried. No, it took me a while to realize. The reason why I felt down was because I wanted to be on stage. And I really didn't realize that until a lot later. So, yeah. Like, sometimes, I would enjoy people's stages and all that stuff. But sometimes, like, I'll enjoy it. But then after I go home, for the next couple like weeks, I'll feel really down. And it's not like for like, my entire attitude is down, but I would feel like something's like, missing. But like I said, it was graduation already. So I was like, if I already gave up at 18, how am I going to do it at like 22? Like, I was too old back then. I'm even older now. Like, what in the world am I doing, But at that time, I didn't even know Korean, didn't sing. At least I was dancing, K-pop stuff, but everything else was still like, what in the world am I gonna do? Should I do the safe route and just do what I was planning to do, which was like, social media marketing or management, like influencer management, like that type of stuff. That's what I was trying to go into after graduation. But at that point, I was like, I don't know what to do. So I decided to at least take some vocal lessons just to see what it was like. Even though I was taking singing lessons then, I wasn't planning on pursuing anything. So actually after graduation, I was still trying to find a full-time job into social media marketing or influencer management, that type of realm of stuff, because I was being like realistic. Like, I graduated, need money now. I was old back then, even older now. Like, what am I gonna do? So I decided to like work. But because it was my first time ever finding a full-time job, usually your first job out of college does tend to take a little while unless you're like perfect. Because I was having a hard time finding a job, I was actually debating between moving back to Georgia, saving some money with my parents and working there first, or just doing any type of job but stay in LA. And then like one random night, just out of nowhere, I was like, should I just move to Korea? Because at the time I was still into K-pop, and I was like, maybe I should just move to Korea and I could do content about Korea, like living in Korea, or like, you know, K-pop still, but in Korea. So I can like up my following, but also do whatever job there, right? So that was at night. The next day, like afternoon, when I met up with my choreo's dance friend, and I told her about it, and I told her, hey, there's like 3 options. What should I do? She was like, you know what? You should just move to Korea. Like, I heard you can easily get a teaching job there. And I was like, okay. Immediately start looking for like even how to become an English teacher here, how to like do anything here, because I knew nothing about it prior. Like I didn't research and know anything prior to that, like, you know, talk. So after that conversation, I immediately started looking up pretty much everything, started watching vlogs on Korea, like started looking at the process of coming here, started applying to any type of job that I can get so I could save money to come here. And the first position I actually got was Gyeonggi-do, which is around Seoul but not in Seoul, because I didn't think I can get Seoul, but my friends were like, no, do it again, you could do it, you can get Seoul. Because everywhere online, especially for your first one, people were like, oh, it's so competitive, it's really hard to get Seoul. But like after doing it, I was like, nah, you can do it. So a little less than a year of me deciding to move to Korea and preparing everything. Finally got everything ready, plane ticket, position, yeah, everything's done. Visa, everything. I already told my workplace, my friends already knew for a long time, and I still haven't told my parents. And we only saw each other once a year ever since I moved out of college. 2 weeks before I was gonna leave, that's when I decided to call my parents and tell them. I just didn't want to hear any disapproval. That's why I didn't want to tell them until the last minute. And when I told them, it's not like they were very happy, but my mom actually was like, she was silent and she was like, I kind of knew this day was gonna come where you finally decide to just go. Because entire time, even when I was doing like dancing and choreos and my K-pop team and everything else, she was like, oh, it's a hobby, right? It's a hobby, right? Or, you know, you're doing this as a hobby, right? You know, she keeps on emphasizing hobby, and I just didn't like listening to it. So when I did tell her I was moving, she was like, I actually knew this day would come, which is surprising because she knew before I knew it would come. Moms know best, I guess. But I still didn't like admit to her that I like wanted to do this. But I think because I never talked about anything else ever again about my future, I think she knew that it's still what I wanted to do. So that's how I came to Korea. Decided to pursue K-pop and decide to do it even though I'm way, way, way older. Because I gave up once and regretted giving up then. So I just didn't want to regret again. And that's why I'm like full on, head all in, you know? That's my life. I don't know how to end this. But yeah, if you listened, thank you for listening. Bye.